shop here at Saratoga as I welcome you to Trips and Traps, the August 8th Trips and Traps. Eric Donovan, Andy Serling. Beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day here at Saratoga. Every day is a beautiful day here at Saratoga. And it's even more a beautiful day for me because I get to do Trips and Traps with you and then talking horses a little bit later.
Yeah, I know. It really doesn't get any better than that, does it? Your Thursday's got to be the day that you look forward to every day of the week. Yeah.
Yeah. As soon as the card's drawn for Thursday, I'm on it, man. I can't get it done soon enough.
Well, you'll get a double dose of you.
I just hope I remember the horses by the time I do the show.
Yes, that's the problem. I constantly find myself up here, especially up here, but anywhere. But there's so many more horses up here. I think a horse is running Thursday, it's running Friday, it's running Saturday. You just don't know what day it is, but eventually they run.
And eventually they do run, and eventually some of these horses that we show on Trips and Traps run back, and we hope they win. And we got 4 races to bring you this week, and we'll start off by taking a look at the 4th race from July 31st. State Bred 2 of the allowance optional claimer going 5.5 on the turf.
Yeah, there's a popular trip in this race, but we thought we'd show it anyway. And the favorite, the 2, the screen is red. You can see her. She's easy to see. She's a gray. And it's that age-old sort of debate. Do you ride short-priced horses a little differently? You ride longer-priced horses. In this case, I think this was one Javier Castellano who's been riding sensationally up here. Wishes he had back because the worst thing you can do, especially in turf sprints, is bury yourself on the inside. Now, he was hurt by having an inside post and having some speed, but he never really had an opportunity to get out here, and it cost her any chance. Yeah,
I don't really even know what else he's supposed to do here because I don't think, maybe for a split second on the backstretch, he had any chance to get out to the outside here with her. And, I think for the most part, she's a victim of her post position here. She's, enjoying a great trip here if a hole opens up at the top of the stretch, but just doesn't materialize that way, and the screen is red, will be eaten by Javier Castellano.
And it also doesn't help that he has Joel Rosario on his flank because no rider is more aware of horses he has to beat when he has them in a position where he can put them into trouble. And that's just what Joel did with the eventual runner-up in here, Barrel of Joy. Kept her in as long as he could. As you can see, she's lost tons of position in this race, and by the time she comes running, the race is over. And she probably would have won the race. Here's the question, though, Eric. What do you do with her the next time she runs?
Yeah, she's even money in this race. She's probably 4 to 5 in her next race. I guess you single her and move on and think she's the best horse as long as she looks like the best horse on paper?
Yeah, perhaps that's the right way to look at it. And I think in some ways, if you're playing multi-race bets, the Chad Brown horses, the fact that they're so dramatically overbet in their starts that you don't ever want to bet them in the win pools. Mm-hmm. But if you use them in multis and maybe you lean heavily on them, you don't get, a horse that's supposed to be 8 to 5 that's going off 6 to 5 or even money. Maybe you'll get closer to that 8 to 5 in the multi-race bets. And that may be exactly the way to go. That may be the way to go in general with Chad's horses because just because he's a local, it seems like every horse he runs is some fraction, and that must come into play in your morning lines.
Oh, it does all the time. It's not just he's a local; he has a lot of success up here too. It's not there's other guys from Saratoga that train up here that don't quite take the money he does.
No, I agree, but Chad is always, even when he first started out with a Bobby Frankel connection, and he's always gotten a lot of press up here. And as you say, he wins a lot of races, he has a lot of horses and stuff. But it's funny, even my mom was here at the track the other day, and I introduced her to Chad, and she said, "Oh, the famous Chad Brown." It's like Chad is a famous name around here. His horses are undervalued, but I think they're probably a better price in multi-race bets, especially pick 4s.
Yeah, I think so too. All right, we'll take a look at a 2-year-old now, maiden special weight race from July 31st. Also, this is race number 7. We'll start off by taking a look at the head-on first. We're looking at the 7 West Coast Chick. It went up the favorite here first for Nick Zito.
If Nick Zito has a first-time star as the favorite, you have to think there's a big story. This horse did not stumble out of the gate. This horse got completely eliminated when the horse to his right came in on her and just took her out of the race.
I thought she broke a step or two slowly.
Maybe. That's probably fair. But she didn't stumble. I think somebody said she stumbled, but she didn't stumble.
The other horse comes over and really compounds things here, and now she's down toward the back of the pack on the inside. You'll see another horse come over down toward the inside. She's a little bit green here, too. She's, I don't think liking being behind horses and having to alter course there, and you'll see as they come toward the turn here, the jockey's having a little bit difficult time getting her to settle here, and, as they go for the turn, she'll start throwing her head pretty good as she's in behind, a bunch of horses there.
Well, she also probably wants to run, and she's in the back of the pack behind horses, and clearly she's not particularly happy about that. So you see what happens, and there she's just taken out of the race. At this point, and you have to think if it's a first-time star that was taking money, the concept was that the horse had some speed, and she finds herself in a completely different position than you want to be in. You wonder, though, does an experience like this, does it take something out of the horse? Because let's face it, this is her first time in a racing experience, and she didn't have the best time. How do you get a horse over that? And I think that's a question really to ask a trainer.
Yeah, that's a good one to ask a trainer, and I guess it depends a lot on the individual too. I mean, some horses might be able to bounce back from it fine. Some horses it might jar them a little bit mentally. And we see West Coast Chick down there on the inside, about where we showed going into the far turn there, where she's kind of in behind horses and going to start throwing her head around. She just wants to be kind of clear and running.
Yeah, she will make enough of a run in this race that you can see she obviously has some ability. It's hard to really know. I don't know how fast a race this ultimately was, but I don't think it really matters where she finished and what kind of race it was, because of all the trouble she had, and she does make this move in the turn, showing she can put herself into the race at least a little bit before tiring. This is a kind of horse, bet heavily first time out. You want to make sure that you're watching the next time it runs. On the other hand, these horses don't go off 10-1 the next time they run.
No, but, I think you get a sixth-place finish here at a West Coast Chick. She's beaten 8 lengths. I didn't think this was one of the strongest maidens races, although, a race for fillies, so it might be okay. But I think the fact that she's not, in the top 3 here is going to help out your price next time out, and she's probably going to get, a lowish figure, and,
Sure.
we'll face some horses probably that have a start or two that look a little bit better, maybe.
Yeah, no, I agree. And this is a horse I'd be willing to give a complete pass for this race, and being it was bet first time out, probably a lot better than it ran in here. I'm sure it's much better than she ran here.
All right, we'll take a look at the De La Rose now. Race number 9 from August 3rd. We're looking at the race here for fillies and mares going a mile. And we're taking a look at the 1, and that's Open Water, and the 4, Assateague. Many people, including myself, figured Assateague would be on the lead here. Was not the case. Assateague taken back from the gate here, and it's the 1, Open Water, who was closing last time, who gets an aggressive ride from Joe Rocco.
But you know something? I can't really blame Joe Rocco, because early in the stages, he sees Assateague not going. Mm-hmm. He's got the rail, and I don't think they were going that quickly right out of the start. And then suddenly, he's got the speed coming at him in here, Baffle Me. And what is he really supposed to do? I guess he could have let Baffle Me go, Eric. Should have let her go.
Yeah, I don't know. Once you're committed like this, I guess you could take back and sit second here in the pocket a little bit, behind the 5-horse Baffle Me. But I think once you're committed, you're committed. I wonder if he wrote a little bit to instructions too. This horse was a victim of a no pace race last time out, trying to come from off the pace, and maybe the connection said, okay, well, we're not going to play that game again. Let's get aggressive with her. We got the 1 hole. Let's send her on out of there and see what she can do. Meanwhile, Assateague, who figured to be figured to be
where the
lead,
1
where
was.
the 1 was, she's sitting this perfect trip in 3rd here.
Yeah, we'll get to her in a second. It is funny with Open Water, and it's one of the reasons suddenly we bang our heads against the wall. How could you predict this happening here? Just as it was hard to predict the last time she ran, because there was a confirmed dirt speed horse in the last race that figured to go the lead, whose jockey rated her. So it's frustrating. Open Water has now run twice here for Eric Eo. Are you hoping she gets into a spot and she's dirtied up later in the meet?
I am. I think she probably needs a little bit of a class drop too. I think she's been running maybe a little bit. Yeah, no, that's the problem. And she's just not as good as she was last year in some of those races. But I think these horses might be a little bit tougher. She may be able to get it done here. I don't know. But in the meantime, she starts to be all in here with Baffle Me up on the outside. You see Assateague swinging 3 wide.
What do you think of Assateague? Suddenly she showed a new dimension, and she may be the hardest winner at Saratoga in the 150 years of racing in Saratoga. I don't think that she's possible. You could make a very logical reason to have liked her in this race, and nobody's really going to deter me from that opinion, to be perfectly honest. She didn't figure to be the best speed. She's never shown an ability to rate. In fact, she's shown conclusively, at least until this race, that she didn't run well when she wasn't able to get the lead, and she's never shown herself to be close to good enough here. So unless you decide I just want to play all Mike Matt's horses, which has worked out pretty well considering he's about 3 for 7 at the meet, I don't know how you defend her logically in this race. Is she a new horse now? Has she suddenly moved forward, or was this more circumstance?
No, I think it's circumstantial with her. I think she's the kind of horse that, gets loose on the lead, she can win. She sits a perfect trip off the speed in 3rd, she can win. And I think things have to go right for her. She's okay, but I don't want to knock her by any means. She's won her last 2 races, and she's been okay this year for Mike. But I think she's the kind of horse that gets herself in a good position and run well from there. For the most part, Andy, aside from Baffle Me and aside from Open Water, I'm not sure I want anyone out of this race.
Well, Ruthenia, who runs much better out of town and didn't run badly here, she just does feel like a horse that in New York she's always wanting a little bit. She doesn't really seem to get it done, because she should have won this race. As for Laugh Out Loud, the European, I don't want any part of her going forward. She's a European that is already over the top, as they say, and this is a horse that would have lapped this field based on her European form. And the fact that she ran third here, to me, says I would bet against her under any circumstances wherever she runs.
I agree with you there. All right, one more race to bring you on Trips and Traps. We'll go to August 5th. This is race number 5. Starter allowance optional claimer going a mile on turf.
This is one I don't think the owner of Smitten with Kitten, Ken Ramsey, was particularly thrilled about, and I think with good cause. And down the rail, we'll talk about That's the Boss, who has trouble later. But this situation, and this is one of the mistakes that Joel Rosario made, and he's a great rider who's riding great here. But you got to be decisive early. If you were going to have trouble with her and they were going to go slow, man, you got that outside post, go to mile. You've got to go. If you weren't going to go, you had to get her back somehow in here. And instead, first of all, she'll get spun wide in the turn. She will lose significant ground and position in the race, and then she'll rocket up to the front end. She actually ran a remarkable race, all things considered, and I think ultimately, and I didn't like her at all in here, she was best.
Oh yeah, she only gets speed 2 3/4, and I mean she runs her race here, in the first quarter mile, and I think you're right about Ken Ramsey. I heard some stories that he was sending Ron Anderson some texts after the race.
I'm sure that people get frustrated, and it's frustrating. Listen, and when we all get frustrated during the day, but this is just a situation, and it's a very difficult situation. It's easy for us to be critical when horses are breaking from outside posts and in mile turf races, but I think that just further it emphasizes how important it is for the riders, whoever they are, to say, I've got the outside post in this race. What am I going to do? And this is something that Jerry Bailey did to absolute perfection. And maybe, just maybe, and Ron Anderson, Joel Rosario's agent, was Jerry's agent for a while, they could go back and watch some of the things that Jerry did, because he rarely got caught in these situations.
You have to have a plan from the outside post, especially going a mile on the center turf course. If you're riding a closer, you got to take him back. If you got a horse with tactical speed, you got to send him out of there. And it just doesn't work out in the early stages there for Smitten with Kitten, who's down inside and is going to, as you say, run a remarkable race. Now we'll kind of turn our attention a little bit to the 2. That's the Boss, who really gets in a little bit of a pickle here throughout the rest of the race.
Yeah, she gets caught behind. Now keep in mind, this is a race where the winner comes from last or earlier and makes that final wide move. So this was a race that collapsed, and that's the winner actually keeping That's the Boss in here. So while That's the Boss runs better than maybe her finish suggests, didn't she kind of have the race in her favor in a lot of ways? And it's just that she had some trouble in the stretch. Otherwise, she would have been closing and getting a perfect trip to do it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right there. Absolutely, she would have had a good setup in here, and had she been clear, she would have been a little bit closer for sure. Everything kind of went her way throughout the most part, except for the last quarter of a mile. But she comes with that good finish there to get fourth.
No, she is running at the end, and it would have been interesting. It's not impossible that she could have won this race if she had been able to get clear there, because the winner's margin wasn't that much, and she was severely blocked. No, because she was trying to move as the winner ranged up outside of her, and the winner inhibited her move and blind switched her there. And what if she's able to get out ahead of her? She seemed to have some run at the end. It would have been interesting, but then she would have been a horse that you were dying to bet against the next time. Yep. So why necessarily do we want to follow her from there? I want Smitten with Kitten from this race, and also coupled with the fact that she'd improved dramatically in her last race at Churchill Downs. She seems like a horse that's put it together.
Yeah, she definitely does, indeed, for the Ramsey stable, and they'll be looking to get her back up here for a W before the meet's over.
I agree, and they'd be smart to stick with Joel Rosario. They will get a good ride the next time. Once again, we can always use your help here. It's Trips and Traps at NYRAInc.com.
Thanks for watching.